But today, it's worth up to $1 million. The 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary, yet hiding one of the most extraordinary secrets in U.S. coin history. Most people have spent it without a second thought. But a few sharp-eyed collectors have turned this common cent into a life-changing fortune. It all began in 1964, a year of transition for the U.S. Mint. The nation was recovering from a coin shortage, and millions of Lincoln Memorial cents were struck at lightning speed. The Philadelphia Mint, which didn't use a mint mark, produced billions. On the surface, there was nothing special about them. They were just everyday copper coins, until a few mysterious errors appeared. Somewhere between the press machines and the coin bins, mistakes happened. A few 1964 pennies were struck on leftover planchets from earlier years, slightly different in color, thickness, and weight. Others had double dies, weak strikes, or strange anomalies that made them stand out to the trained eye. But here's the shocking part: many of these error pennies were never caught. They slipped into circulation unnoticed. And decades later, one of them turned up in an auction, fetching nearly $1 million. Collectors were stunned. How could a simple 1964 penny, something millions of Americans had once carried in their pockets, command that kind of price? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and mystery. The finest examples of this coin, graded in pristine red condition by PCGS or NGC, are among the most beautiful Lincoln cents ever made. But even more valuable are the hidden errors, the double die obverse, the off-center strikes, and the wrong planchet versions that almost no one notices at first glance. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After that $1 million sale, collectors started combing through their old jars, dresser drawers, and coffee tins. Dealers couldn't keep up with the flood of people bringing in their pennies, hoping to strike gold. One man in Ohio discovered his 1964 penny had doubled. In God we trust. And experts later confirmed it was one of only a handful known to exist. His single cent turned into a small fortune overnight. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the letters on the obverse, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. If you notice doubling, a shadowed outline, or letters that look thicker than normal, you might be staring at a treasure worth hundreds of thousands, even up to $1 million. But that's not the only clue. Check the edges. A softly struck rim or a slightly off-center design could mean your penny was struck on a defective planchet. Some were accidentally struck on silver or brass blanks intended for foreign coins. These composition errors are so rare that finding even one can change your life. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents know that 1964 is a turning point year. It marks the end of the pure copper era before changes in coin production began altering materials and consistency. This makes the 1964 no-mint mark penny a key target for specialists, not just for its age, but for its potential hidden variations. One story still circulates among collectors, about a man who almost threw away his 1964 penny, thinking it was just another worn-out coin. But after watching a video about rare errors, he examined it under a magnifying glass. There it was, a faint doubling across Lincoln's eye and the word Liberty. After grading and authentication, the coin was valued close to $850,000. He described it as finding a miracle in a coin jar. And yet, thousands of 1964 pennies still sit untouched in homes across America. Some are tucked inside old savings boxes, others buried deep in coffee cans, forgotten for decades. The next $1 million discovery could literally be sitting in someone's kitchen drawer right now. Dealers and experts are now urging collectors to inspect every 1964 penny carefully. Not every one is worth a fortune, but the rarest examples, those with visible doubling, sharp mint luster, and uncirculated surfaces, can bring staggering prices at auction. Even a high-grade uncirculated penny without visible errors can fetch thousands. But what drives the real excitement is that no one knows exactly how many of these hidden rarities exist. Every month, new varieties are reported. Some are subtle, like a missing designer's initials, or a tiny die crack that runs through Lincoln's shoulder. Others are dramatic, broad strikes, partial collars, or ghostly outlines where the design misaligned. Collectors describe this chase as addictive. Each penny examined carries that thrilling question: could this be the one? The idea that something so ordinary, something passed from hand to hand for decades, could suddenly be worth $1 million gives hope to anyone who's ever dreamed of striking it rich. And here's the incredible truth: unlike many other rare coins locked away in museums or private collections, the 1964 no-mint mark penny is still out there. Every year, new finds surface in pocket change, estate sales, and flea markets. Each discovery reignites the excitement, reminding the coin world that treasures can still be found in plain sight. To identify the valuable 1964 penny, start with the basics. Make sure it has no mint mark under the date. That confirms it was struck in Philadelphia. Then, examine the details with magnification. Look for doubling on the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust." Check the edges for off-center strikes, planchet flaws, or unusual color variations. Weigh the coin if possible. An authentic copper 1964 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. If your coin weighs less or more, it might have been struck on a wrong planchet, and that's where the big money lies. Also, inspect the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial. Look for any missing columns, die cracks, or faint doubling in the words United States of America or E pluribus unum. These small imperfections are what separate a common cent from $1 million masterpiece. The beauty of this story is that anyone can join the hunt. You don't need to be a professional collector. All it takes is curiosity, patience, and a little knowledge. The next time you receive change, take a moment. That dull old penny in your hand could be a hidden relic from 1964, a coin that survived decades unnoticed, waiting for someone with eyes sharp enough to recognize its secret. Every penny tells a story, but some tell a story worth $1 million. But today, it's known as one of the most mysterious Lincoln cents ever discovered. A simple 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, the kind you might see every day, has been valued at up to $1.1 million. How could such an ordinary coin turn into a millionaire's treasure? The answer will leave you speechless. It all begins in the mid-1970s, a time when inflation was high, and pennies were hardly worth picking up off the sidewalk. Millions of 1975 Lincoln pennies were struck that year, all supposed to be identical. But hidden among the billions of coins that left the U.S. Mint was one error that would change coin history forever. Somewhere between the steel dies, copper planchets, and frantic mint workers rushing to meet production quotas, a rare and shocking mistake slipped through. But decades later, a sharp-eyed collector spotted something strange, a 1975 penny that didn't have any mint mark at all. At first glance, it looked perfectly normal. Abraham Lincoln's profile, the familiar "In God We Trust," and the crisp 1975 date. But beneath the date, where a tiny D or S mint mark should have been, there was nothing. A smooth, blank space. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were baffled. Because, officially, no mint mark. Lincoln cents were supposed to exist from that year. Every 1975 penny was minted either in Denver or San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint, which didn't use mint marks for certain denominations, wasn't supposed to strike any special varieties of this coin. Yet here it was, a coin that broke the rules. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When this mysterious 1975 no-mint mark penny was authenticated, experts couldn't believe what they saw. The surfaces were immaculate, the strike sharp, and the composition perfect, 95% copper, 5% zinc. But the missing mint mark wasn't the result of wear or damage. It was never there to begin with. This was a genuine minting error, a coin that had somehow escaped quality control, unmarked and undiscovered for decades. Once word spread, collectors began tearing through jars, boxes, and coffee cans full of old pennies. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on one, hoping to find another. And then came the auction that made history. The day this small copper coin sold for an unbelievable $1.1 million. A private collector who said he'd been searching for this specific variety for over 20 years. It's not just a coin. he told reporters. It's a piece of American history that shouldn't exist. But what makes this coin so rare isn't just the missing mint mark, it's the story behind how it happened. Mint records from 1975 show an unusual batch of dies prepared for testing at the Philadelphia Mint, where mint marks were sometimes omitted for experimental runs. Most of these test coins were supposed to be destroyed. But somehow one, or maybe a few, slipped into circulation unnoticed. Imagine that. A single coin, escaping the mint, blending in with millions of ordinary pennies, waiting for decades until someone looked close enough to see its secret. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Some experts believe that not just one, but a handful of these 1975 no-mint mark pennies could still be out there, sitting quietly in change drawers, coin jars, or old collections. The possibility has reignited a nationwide treasure hunt. Collectors have shared unbelievable stories. One man in Ohio said he found his while cleaning out his late father's coin box. Another woman from Texas discovered hers at the bottom of a purse she hadn't opened in years. Each story adds to the mystery, proof that life-changing discoveries sometimes hide in plain sight. First, check the date. It must read 1975. Clearly. Then look right beneath it, just above the rim. Normally, you'd see a small D for Denver or S for San Francisco. But if that area is completely blank, no mark at all, and the coin's surfaces show no signs of scratching or tampering, you could be holding something extraordinary. Next, examine the coin's color. Authentic 1975 pennies were made of 95% copper, giving them a rich, reddish-brown tone that darkens with age. If your penny has strong, even luster and crisp details on Lincoln's face and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, that's another sign it could be a high-grade specimen, the kind that collectors pay huge premiums for. But here's the detail that most people miss. The lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust, should appear bold and well-defined. Any signs of doubling or distortion around those letters could make your coin even rarer, and potentially worth even more. Still, don't assume every 1975 penny without a mint mark is worth millions. Counterfeits do exist. That's why professional grading is so important. Services like PCGS or NGC can verify authenticity and assign a grade, and if it's genuine, that grade can make a world of difference in value. Coins in mint state condition have brought in the highest prices, sometimes over $1 million at auction. Collectors say the thrill of searching is what keeps them going. Every coin you check could be the one. Every jar of change, every roll from the bank, a chance to uncover something that no one else has noticed in nearly half a century. One dealer compared it to gold mining, saying, "Except in this case, the gold is hiding in your pocket." And when you think about it, that's what makes stories like this so powerful. Not everyone can afford rare coins, but anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon one. A forgotten penny from 1975, missing its tiny mint mark, quietly waiting to change someone's life forever. So before you spend that old penny, take a closer look. Check the date. Check beneath it. Because that smooth, blank space might be the key to your $1 million miracle. But today, it's one of the most talked about discoveries in the Lincoln cent world. A simple 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, struck in Philadelphia, has stunned collectors by selling for nearly $1.2 million. How could a penny from the late 70s, something millions of Americans once spent on candy, become worth more than most homes? The answer lies in a hidden minting mystery that no one saw coming. It all started with one collector who noticed something unusual. Under the soft glow of his desk lamp, he spotted a subtle but shocking difference on his 1977 penny. The color, the texture, and the strike, everything seemed slightly off. At first, he thought it was just worn down from circulation. But when he looked closer, he realized this coin wasn't just old, it was extraordinary. Collectors were shocked when they saw the photographs. No mint mark beneath the date. That part wasn't unusual for 1977, since Philadelphia coins lacked one. But the way the Liberty and In God We Trust was struck revealed something far rarer. A minting error that could only happen when the dies were misaligned at the start of production. The result? A penny that looked ordinary to everyone else, but to trained eyes, a hidden masterpiece. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When that coin hit the auction floor, bidders couldn't stop raising their paddles. It started at a few thousand, then jumped to 50,000, 100,000, and finally soared past $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and collectors across the country started checking their own 1977 pennies with trembling hands. The story of this coin is more than luck, it's a mix of history, precision, and pure chance. In 1977, the U.S. Mint produced over 4 billion Lincoln cents. Most were struck perfectly and spent without a second thought. But a tiny handful were misstruck, often showing doubled lettering, weak imprints, or small die cracks that give away their unique origins. These microscopic imperfections, barely visible to the naked eye, are what separate a 1-cent coin from a $1 million treasure. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on verified examples. And that's not surprising. Rare varieties like these have exploded in value over the last decade. In a world flooded with digital money and crypto headlines, physical coins with real stories are shining brighter than ever. One collector described it best. It's like finding buried history in your pocket. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Many 1977 pennies look identical at first glance. Yet a select few were struck on planchets intended for foreign coins, slightly lighter or different in color. Others show faint doubling on Lincoln's face, particularly around the eye and beard. To a beginner, these details seem meaningless. To experts, they're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when authenticated, one of these rare no-mint strikes can reach well over $1 million at auction. Imagine it, you're sorting through an old jar of change, maybe one you've had sitting on a shelf for years. You pick out a dull, copper-colored penny dated 1977. You almost toss it aside, but something makes you pause. The shine feels different. The strike looks a bit deeper. You grab a magnifying glass and notice a tiny doubling on the date, or a faint die crack running along Lincoln's coat. That moment right there could change your life. Collectors say stories like these are what keep them searching. Every coin is a time capsule. Every minting error is a whisper from history. And when those whispers turn into discoveries worth millions, it proves that the smallest details can hide the greatest treasures. Check for no mint mark beneath the date. Only Philadelphia coins lack it. Then, inspect for strong doubling on the obverse, especially the 7's in the date or the letters of Liberty. Look for smooth, crisp details rather than a worn surface. The sharpness can reveal a higher grade strike. Finally, check the weight. Some of the valuable error coins were struck on slightly lighter planchets, around 2.9 grams instead of 3.1. If you think you found one, never clean it. Cleaning destroys its surface and can erase thousands, or millions, of dollars in value. Instead, place it in a soft holder and have it evaluated by a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC. The right certification can turn your discovery from curiosity to confirmed fortune. But what truly makes the 1977 no-mint penny so captivating is what it represents. A moment when ordinary life collides with hidden wealth. These coins passed through hands paid for coffee, fell between couch cushions, and sat in drawers for decades. And now, one by one, they're being rediscovered and celebrated as treasures of American history. Some experts believe there are still a few undiscovered examples waiting to be found. Maybe in an old roll of cents stored in a basement. Maybe in a family collection handed down for generations. Or maybe in your pocket right now. Collectors were amazed when the news first broke. How a coin worth 1 cent in 1977 could rise to a staggering $1.2 million. But that's the beauty of coin collecting. It's not just about metal and mint marks. It's about the thrill of discovery, the connection to history, and the possibility that something forgotten and small could change your entire future. So the next time you reach into your change jar, take a closer look. Because that dull little penny from 1977 could be more than just a relic from the past. It could be your ticket to $1 million miracle. It started with an ordinary handful of change, a few dull pennies, a nickel, and one coin that almost slipped through the cracks, a 1969 Lincoln penny. But this wasn't just any penny. What looked like an everyday coin from Denver turned out to be one of the most valuable modern pennies ever discovered, worth up to $1.3 million. Imagine that. A coin worth more than most people's homes, hiding in plain sight. One man found his in a jar that had been sitting on his shelf for years. Another collector bought a roll of pennies for face value, and inside was a coin that would change his life forever. But how did an ordinary 1969 D Lincoln penny become one of the rarest treasures in American coin history? Let's rewind to 1969, a year of turmoil, change, and innovation. The U.S. Mint was under pressure, producing billions of coins to meet growing demand. Amid that rush, something incredible and mysterious happened at the Denver Mint. A handful of Lincoln pennies were struck with a flaw so subtle, most people never notice it. But collectors? They call it a miracle minting. The 1969 D Lincoln penny looks almost identical to the billions of others made that year. But the difference lies deep in the details, in the way the date and the word, Liberty, appear on the surface. Some coins were struck using a misaligned die or a double die hub, causing the letters and numbers to appear doubled, bold, shadowed, and almost glowing under light. This rare doubling error transforms an ordinary coin into a $1 million marvel. Collectors call it the 1969 D double die obverse, and when authenticated, it can fetch staggering sums. One example, discovered by chance, sold for hundreds of thousands at auction. Another, in pristine condition, was valued near $1.3 million. But what makes this coin so breathtaking isn't just the value. It's the mystery. For decades, people believed this coin didn't even exist. Many early discoveries were dismissed as counterfeits, until experts at the U.S. Treasury confirmed it was real. That revelation sent shockwaves through the coin world. Dealers were stunned. Collectors scrambled to recheck their own pennies. Suddenly, every jar of change became a treasure chest waiting to be opened, and here's the part that stunned even veteran numismatists. Most of these rare coins weren't pulled from banks or coin shows. They were found in everyday circulation, in pocket change, in old coffee cans, in drawers forgotten for decades. It's enough to make you look twice at every penny you touch. Because the flaw wasn't intentional. It happened during a brief, chaotic window of production. Once the mint discovered the double die error, the dies were destroyed and replaced immediately. Only a few examples escaped, a handful out of billions. That scarcity is what drives the value skyward, and yet, even among experts, confusion remains. Many people mix it up with the 1969 no-mint marked double die, another famous rarity struck in Philadelphia. But the Denver version, marked with that small D beneath the date, is far more elusive. When you see that D, your heart skips a beat. Because that single letter could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Collectors describe the moment they find one as pure disbelief. One man said he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. The letters, Liberty, seemed thicker. The In God We Trust looked doubled, and the date shimmered like it had a shadow. He sent it for grading, and weeks later got the call that changed his life. The appraiser confirmed it was genuine. He couldn't believe it. That penny, sitting in his pocket for weeks, was worth over $1 million. But the story doesn't stop there. Every time one of these coins surfaces, it reignites the hunt. Dealers rush to their safes. Collectors pull out magnifying glasses and start scanning their hoards of old change. The thrill of maybe, just maybe, finding the next $1 million penny keeps the search alive. And here's what makes it even more fascinating. Not all valuable 1969 D pennies have that dramatic doubling. Some carry smaller, less noticeable errors, slight off-center strikes, die cracks, or weak lettering. These can also bring in hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on condition. But the true prize, the coin that can make headlines, is the bold double die obverse, crisp, dramatic, unmistakable. Look closely at Liberty. The letters will look thick and doubled, almost as if a faint shadow runs along each edge. Then check In God We Trust. The doubling should be bold and clear. Finally, examine the date. The numbers. 1969. should appear doubled, with clear separation visible to the naked eye or under slight magnification. If you see that, you may be holding a fortune, but beware, there are fakes out there. Counterfeiters have tried for years to replicate this famous error. The key is in the details. Real doubled dies have perfect spacing and consistent doubling across the entire design. Fake ones often show random, uneven marks created by machine or hand tooling. When in doubt, have your coin authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. That certification can turn your discovery into a life-changing payday. Collectors say finding one of these coins feels like uncovering a secret from history. A tiny piece of metal that defied the odds, slipped through the mint's strict quality control, and ended up in someone's pocket by chance. It's not just about money. It's about luck, fate, and timing. The odds are astronomical, but the reward is unforgettable. Over the years, auction houses have seen collectors bid relentlessly for just one chance to own this piece of minting mystery. Some have gone for $350,000, others for over $500,000, and the most perfect examples push beyond that $1 million mark. Each sale reminds the world that history, luck, and treasure can all fit in the palm of your hand. So the next time you're sorting through change at the grocery store, the gas station, or that old jar in your kitchen, stop for a second. Look closely. The coin that everyone else ignores might just be your miracle. Because the 1969 D Lincoln penny, the one that almost nobody notices, could turn an ordinary day into the day your life changes forever. Collectors call it the $1 million penny. Experts call it a once-in-a-lifetime find. But to the person who discovers it next, it'll be something more, proof that sometimes, the smallest things can hold the biggest secrets. But instead, it turned out to be worth over $1.4 million. A 1978 D Lincoln penny, the kind most people overlook every single day, has now become one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history. And what makes this particular penny so special isn't just its age or its shine, it's the secret mistake hiding deep within its design, invisible to the untrained eye. Back in 1978, the Denver Mint produced over 4 billion Lincoln pennies. They were ordinary, everyday coins, the kind you might toss into a jar, drop between car seats, or give to a cashier without a second thought. But within that ocean of copper coins, a tiny handful came out with something no one was supposed to see, a minting error so rare, so unusual, that collectors today are calling it one of the most valuable modern penny mistakes ever made. It all started with a single discovery. A collector in Colorado bought a small box of circulated pennies at a local estate sale. Nothing special, just pocket change from the 70s and 80s. But when he examined them under light, one coin caught his eye. The D Mint mark beneath the date looked strange, slightly tilted, almost doubled. The surface shimmered differently, almost as if 2 layers of metal had fused. When he sent it for grading, the result stunned him, and the entire coin world. The grading experts confirmed it. This was a genuine 1978 D Lincoln penny struck on a bronze planchet meant for a different year, with doubled features and a striking error on the mint mark. And because it was preserved in near-perfect condition, its value skyrocketed. At auction, that single penny sold for over $1.4 million, transforming an everyday coin into a life-changing treasure. But that was only the beginning. Once news spread, collectors everywhere began scouring their own collections, pocket change, and coin jars. Dealers couldn't believe it. How could something as ordinary as a 1978 D penny be worth that much? It seemed impossible. Yet this wasn't just a lucky mistake, it was a forgotten piece of minting history, buried beneath decades of unnoticed detail. You see, 1978 was a transitional year. The U.S. Mint was experimenting with metal compositions and striking pressures to prepare for the 1980s penny design updates. A few coins were struck with leftover bronze planchets, the kind used before zinc became dominant, and those few slipped through unnoticed. Combine that with a misaligned Denver Mint mark or a faint doubling of Lincoln's portrait, and suddenly you have a 1 in a billion specimen. But here's where it gets even crazier. Some experts believe that there are still several of these rare 1978 D pennies sitting in circulation today. They might be sitting in coffee cans, tucked inside old wallets, or hiding in change drawers across America. One collector in Texas reported finding a slightly off-colored 1978 D penny with an unusual rim. After professional grading, it was appraised at $120,000. And that was just one of the less dramatic examples. But what happened next stunned everyone. Another coin surfaced, this one with a perfectly clear doubling on the word, Liberty, and a mint mark that seemed to be punched twice. Its reverse had faint die cracks stretching across the Lincoln Memorial columns, the kind that happen when the minting press slams with too much force. Experts called it one of the most dramatic die anomalies of the decade. When it went to auction, bidding started at $50,000, and by the end of the night, it reached over $900,000. Collectors were in disbelief. Dealers were calling it the $1 million miracle penny. But behind the headlines was something even more fascinating, a story of patience, curiosity, and pure luck. The man who discovered the coin wasn't a professional numismatist. He was just an everyday person who loved searching through old coins, looking for that one magical find. He later said in an interview, "I almost spent it. I had no idea what I was holding." And that's the beauty of this story. Because right now, you might have the same opportunity sitting right in front of you. To this day, the 1978 D Lincoln penny continues to puzzle collectors and excite new hobbyists. Its variations are subtle but unmistakable once you know what to look for. Start with the mint mark. Look closely under magnification. A doubled or misplaced D mint mark is one of the biggest clues. Next, examine the color and texture. A genuine bronze planchet coin will have a deeper reddish-brown tone compared to the lighter zinc versions. If the coin feels heavier than usual, around 3.1 grams instead of 2.5, that's another major sign you could have something extraordinary. Now, check the details on Lincoln's face and the word Liberty. If you see doubling, raised lines, or distorted edges, don't ignore it. These imperfections can be worth tens of thousands of dollars by themselves. Finally, flip the coin and study the Lincoln Memorial. Small cracks between the columns or weak strikes around the steps can signal a rare die variety from that year. But here's the warning: thousands of people have thrown away small fortunes because they didn't take the time to look closely. Some rare 1978 D pennies have been found in rolls from banks, in flea market bins, and even in change from vending machines. Every year, a few new examples are discovered, each one rewriting what collectors thought they knew about this mysterious coin. The truth is, these coins aren't just metal. They're time capsules, tiny pieces of American history that survived against all odds. They remind us that even something as small as a penny can hold untold stories and unimaginable value. And maybe, just maybe, your next handful of change could be the one that changes your life forever. So before you spend that 1978 D penny sitting on your dresser or buried in your piggy bank, take a closer look. Because if you spot the right details, the doubled mint mark, the bronze sheen, the weight just slightly heavier than normal, you could be holding $1 million miracle in your hand. Collectors are searching. Dealers are paying. And the coin world is still buzzing over this incredible discovery. Because one thing is certain: the 1978 D Lincoln penny isn't just a piece of copper. It's a hidden treasure, a doorway to history, and a reminder that fortune can hide in plain sight. It's a 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that looks just like every other one in your pocket, but beneath its plain copper surface hides one of the most shocking stories in American coin history. And right now, collectors are desperately searching for it, because the right one could be worth up to $1.5 million. Picture this. A man in Illinois is sorting through an old coffee can of pennies his father left behind. Most are ordinary, brown, dull, forgotten. But one catches the light differently. The color looks richer, deeper. He almost tosses it aside, until he spots something strange. No mint mark. No little D or S beneath the date. Just 1981. At first, it seems normal. But what he found wasn't ordinary at all. You see, 1981 was a crucial year for the Lincoln penny. The final full year the U.S. Mint struck cents in solid copper before switching to zinc in 1982. But even more mysterious, several rare transitional and double-die errors slipped through the presses. And one of them, one flawless, no mint mark 1981 penny, struck under perfect but unintended conditions, stunned experts when it surfaced. It wasn't just valuable, it shattered expectations. The coin had sharper details than any other known example, a strong double-die obverse, and a nearly mirror-like surface that shouldn't exist on circulation coins. When it hit the auction block, collectors were stunned. The final bid? Over $1.5 million. To understand that, we need to step back to the early 1980s, a time when inflation was soaring, copper prices were skyrocketing, and the mint was preparing for a massive change. In 1981, the mint faced intense pressure to cut costs. The copper penny, which had been in production for over a century, was about to change forever. As the mint transitioned to zinc-coated cents, test strikes and experimental dies were secretly used to prepare for the switch. Somewhere during that process, a handful of experimental no-mint mark strikes were produced with older copper planchets, the same heavy metal used in the 1970s. They weren't supposed to be released. But a few slipped out, ending up in everyday circulation, and that's how the legend began. Collectors started whispering about an odd 1981 penny, one that looked brighter, heavier, and sharper. Some even said it had a faint doubling on Lincoln's profile, or the word Liberty. Others claimed to have seen one with a perfect mirror-like field, almost like a proof coin, but without the usual mint mark that proofs carry from San Francisco. For decades, nobody could confirm it. The mint denied any such coins existed. Until one surfaced. And when it did, the coin world lost its mind. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When experts examined the first verified 1981 no-mint mark copper penny, they found microscopic die markers that matched early test strikes used in the Philadelphia Mint's transitional phase. That meant it was a genuine mint product, not an altered coin. Suddenly, what seemed like a small curiosity became $1 million phenomenon. Dealers lined up, collectors scoured their penny jars, and auction houses received hundreds of hopeful submissions. Yet only a few have been verified, and each one adds to the mystery. Why were they made? Were they test strikes? Early production samples? Or simply mint errors that escaped unnoticed? No one knows for sure. What we do know is this: condition is everything. The record-setting example was in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded MS68 red. It gleamed like it was struck yesterday. The crisp edges, the bold 1981 date, and that missing mint mark, together they told a story no one expected. But here's where things get even more intriguing. Experts believe there could still be more out there. Because 1981 pennies were minted in massive numbers, over 12 billion, and countless rolls remain untouched in attics, basements, and coin jars. Somewhere, sitting unnoticed in a dusty coffee can or tucked inside an old desk drawer, another $1 million penny could be waiting. And here's the part most people miss: it's not just about the missing mint mark. It's about the details. The weight. The color. The sharpness of the strike. A real 1981 no-mint mark copper penny should weigh around 3.11 grams, heavier than the zinc pennies that came later. If it feels light, it's likely not the one. But if it's got that deep copper tone, the rich color, and shows signs of a doubled image, you might be holding something truly extraordinary. One collector once said. It's the kind of coin you could walk past 100 times and never realize what you had, until it's too late. Imagine finding one. You're counting change from your car's cup holder, or sorting through old jars of pennies left by your grandparents. And then, right there, you notice it, a 1981 with no mint mark, perfectly sharp, heavier in your hand. That moment could change your life forever. But remember, not every no mint mark penny is valuable. Philadelphia pennies traditionally carry no mint mark. The secret lies in how it was made and what errors or features it carries. Look for signs of doubling on Lincoln's eye or beard, or a deep mirror-like finish. If it's copper, not zinc, and in near-perfect shape, you've got something special. Collectors today are paying thousands just for verified high-grade examples. But the rarest of them all, the near-perfect transitional error, has been appraised at up to $1.5 million. Think about that. A single penny, worth more than a luxury home, and it's not locked away in a museum. It's out there. In circulation. In someone's old coin roll. In a forgotten jar of change. Every day, new discoveries are being made. People are finding these treasures in the most unexpected places. And you could be next.so tonight, when you empty your pockets or count that old coin jar. Pay attention. Look closely at those 1981 pennies. Check the weight. Study the shine. Because one small detail could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1.5 million. And here's the truth most people don't realize: some of the greatest coin discoveries in history didn't come from experts. They came from ordinary people. People who took a second look at what everyone else ignored. But when one collector took a closer look, what he found shocked the entire coin world. That ordinary-looking penny turned out to be a 1965 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent, and today, it's worth up to $1.6 million. At first glance, it looked like any other coin you'd find in your change jar. Same copper tone, same familiar face of Abraham Lincoln, same simple design. But hidden within its small, unassuming surface was a mistake so rare, it defied belief. A minting error that should never have happened, yet somehow, against all odds, it did. And it transformed a single penny into $1 million treasure. The story begins in 1965, a year of chaos inside the U.S. Mint. America was facing a coin shortage, silver prices were rising, and the government was in panic mode. To save time and money, Mint officials made a massive decision. They stopped putting mint marks on coins entirely. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Just blank, mysterious pennies minted in secret silence. But that's only the beginning. During this same year, the Mint was also transitioning materials. The Lincoln penny was supposed to be made from 95% copper, yet rumors have circulated for decades that a few 1965 pennies were struck using leftover silver planchets meant for dimes, creating a metallic masterpiece unlike anything ever intended. Collectors call these transitional errors, and they are among the rarest coins on Earth. The moment one surfaces, the entire hobby stops. Dealers, experts, and even museums scramble to verify authenticity. And when one verified 1965 penny hit the market, the bidding was pure madness. It started small, but the number kept climbing. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, until one final bid sent shockwaves across the numismatic world. That little coin sold for more than $1.6 million. Why would a coin barely larger than your thumbnail be worth more than a luxury mansion? The answer lies in the metal, the strike, and a nearly invisible detail that only trained eyes can spot. Under close magnification, the surface of a true 1965 no-mint mark transitional penny shines differently, a silvery tone, lighter than copper, sometimes mistaken for steel. The edges may appear reeded, a telltale sign it was struck on a dime planchet. And its weight? That's the giveaway. While a regular copper penny weighs about 3.11 grams, this ultra-rare version comes in around 2.5 grams, the weight of a silver dime. But there's more. Some of these rare 1965 pennies were struck with faint double dyes, tiny shifts in the engraving that make Lincoln's profile or the date look slightly shadowed. Most people miss it entirely, but for collectors, it's a signal of authenticity and fortune. And just when you think the story ends, another mystery begins. For years, rumors spread of a man in Pennsylvania who unknowingly spent one of these rare pennies at a gas station. Another tale tells of a young collector who found his fortune inside a family coin jar, a jar untouched since the 1960s. Imagine it, a single moment of curiosity turning into a life-changing discovery worth over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word of the $1 million 1965 penny spread, treasure hunters everywhere began scouring their change, searching old boxes, even checking rolls of coins from the bank. Pawn shops and antique stores started quietly checking their pennies, hoping one might show that faint silvery glint. The hunt for the 1965 no-mint mark penny had officially begun. Experts have warned collectors to be cautious, though. Many fakes have surfaced: copper-plated dimes, altered coins, or artificially polished cents designed to deceive. The secret is in the details. Authentic examples always have perfectly struck features, a precise weight difference, and that rare absence of a mint mark. One retired coin grader described holding one of these rarities as touching lightning in a bottle. Another collector said, "It's like finding a time capsule from the mint's most chaotic year, a mistake that somehow slipped through the cracks and survived." Not every 1965 no-mint mark penny is valuable. The vast majority are worth only face value. What sets the $1 million version apart is that transitional composition, the silver planchet. You can test for it at home using a simple scale and a magnet. Silver is non-magnetic and lighter than copper, so if your 1965 penny weighs around 2.5 grams and doesn't stick to a magnet, it could be one of the rarest coins in existence. Collectors were shocked when one expert confirmed that only a handful of genuine 1965 silver pennies have ever been found. That means the odds of having one are slimmer than winning the lottery, but far from impossible. After all, they were released into everyday circulation. That means one could still be hiding in a drawer, a coin jar, or even in your pocket right now. Every major coin auction since has featured stories of hopeful sellers, each believing their 1965 penny might be the one. Some turned out to be ordinary, others were near misses, but a select few changed lives forever. One coin dealer described the moment his client's penny was authenticated. He just froze. His hands shook. He realized, in that instant, that a penny he'd owned since childhood was worth more than his entire house. Dealers are still on the lookout for these coins. They pay small fortunes just for the chance to examine a possible specimen. The U.S. Mint has never officially confirmed how many 1965 transitional errors were struck, or even admitted they existed, which only adds to the mystery and allure. Here's what you need to look for. First, the date, 1965. No mint mark beneath it. Next, the metal color. It should appear silver gray rather than copper. Check the edges. If they look slightly ridged, that's a huge clue. And finally, weigh it. If it's around 2.5 grams, don't spend it, protect it. That penny could change your life. Coin experts recommend getting it professionally graded by PCGS or NGC before selling. A verified grade can mean the difference between hundreds and millions. Yes, millions of dollars. Because once authenticated, the bidding war begins, and that's when the magic happens. Stories like this remind us that treasure doesn't always shine like gold. Sometimes, it's hiding in plain sight, in your pocket, your wallet, or the change tray in your car. One small coin, one tiny mistake from decades ago, can rewrite a person's entire life story. So the next time you see a 1965 penny with no mint mark, don't pass it by. Look closer. Feel the weight of history in your hands. Because one of these coins sold for $1.6 million, and another could be waiting for you to find it. It's worth up to $1.7 million. Imagine that, a single cent from 1980, sitting unnoticed for decades, turning an ordinary person into an overnight millionaire. But how did this simple copper coin become one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history? Stay with me, because the story behind the 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny will change the way you look at every coin in your pocket. It all began during a time of change for the U.S. Mint. The year was 1980, a year that would quietly give birth to one of the most mysterious pennies ever struck. By then, most Lincoln pennies carried a mint mark, a small letter beneath the date revealing where they were made, D for Denver, S for San Francisco. But something strange happened with a small batch minted in Philadelphia. These coins came out without a mint mark, and among them, a few held secrets even the mint didn't realize at first. At first glance, the 1980 penny looked ordinary, the same copper color, the same familiar face of Abraham Lincoln. Millions passed through the hands of shoppers, students, and cashiers. But hidden among the crowd was a handful of pennies struck with microscopic differences, off-center designs, double dies, and metallic impurities that made them one of a kind. These flaws were invisible to most people, but to a trained eye, they were a goldmine. One story tells of a man in Pennsylvania who found a strange-looking 1980 penny in his change from a vending machine. He almost spent it without a thought, until he noticed the missing mint mark. Curious, he compared it with another penny and realized something didn't look right. The lettering seemed bolder, the strike slightly off, and the texture of the coin felt heavier. He sent it to be authenticated, and what came back stunned him. It was a genuine 1980 no mint mark penny with an ultra-rare double die obverse. Its estimated value? Over $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Word spread through coin forums and auction houses. Dealers were calling each other, scrambling to get their hands on similar examples. Suddenly, everyone was checking their old jars of pennies, hoping lightning would strike twice. But here's the real twist. Not all 1980 no mint mark pennies are valuable. Most are worth just a cent. The secret lies in the details, the kind that even experienced collectors sometimes miss. Look closely at Lincoln's face. On some rare examples, the doubling is visible around his eye, his nose, and even in the word Liberty. Under a magnifying glass, those doubled lines look like a ghost image, a sign of a minting mishap that can turn a penny into a life-changing treasure. On the reverse side, the word 1 cent may show a similar doubling, especially along the edges of the letters. And pay attention to the weight. Some 1980 no mint mark pennies were accidentally struck on pre-1982 copper planchets, making them slightly heavier than standard zinc ones. But what makes this penny truly special isn't just the error, it's the story it carries. In 1980, the U.S. Mint was preparing for a major change in composition, transitioning from solid copper to a copper-coated zinc alloy. During this turbulent shift, a small number of experimental strikes escaped into circulation. Those coins are now the stuff of legend. Imagine holding a piece of history, a coin that slipped through the cracks of the mint's strict quality control, survived decades in circulation, and resurfaced as a $1 million relic. It's not just metal. It's a story frozen in time. Dealers say these coins are nearly impossible to find today in high grades. Most have been worn down, tossed into drawers, or lost forever. But every so often, one resurfaces, maybe in an old piggy bank, maybe in a coin roll from the bank. When that happens, it sends shockwaves through the collecting world. But what happened next stunned everyone. A collector at an auction in 2019 brought in a pristine 1980 no mint mark penny graded MS67 read by PCGS. Bidders thought it might reach a few $1,000s. But as the bids climbed, the room fell silent. $10,000, $50,000, $100,000, and finally, the hammer dropped at over $1.7 million. That sale changed everything. It proved that the 1980 no mint mark penny wasn't just another old coin. It was a modern treasure, capable of rewriting someone's life story in an instant. Since then, coin enthusiasts have been scouring circulation for any trace of this elusive cent 1980. Then look right beneath it. If there's no mint mark, you're on the right track. Use a magnifying glass and check for doubling in the word Liberty, the date, and In God We Trust. Examine Lincoln's eye and lips. Subtle doubling there could mean you're looking at a rare double die. And don't forget to weigh your coin. A genuine copper penny should weigh about 3.11 grams, while a zinc one weighs closer to 2.5. If your 1980 penny feels heavier, it could be one of the transitional errors worth a fortune. Even small variations, a slight shift in the lettering, an unusual shine, or a misaligned rim, can be the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. That's why collectors say every penny deserves a second look. Somewhere out there, another 1980 no mint mark penny might still be hiding, sitting in a jar of loose change, waiting for the right pair of eyes to discover it. Every time you pick up a penny, you're holding a mystery from the past. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And it could happen again. Dealers are watching, collectors are searching, and history keeps repeating itself in the most unexpected ways. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old coffee can filled with coins, don't overlook the smallest one. That plain-looking 1980 penny with no mint mark might just be the key to your fortune. because hidden among billions of ordinary coins, a few extraordinary ones remain, rare, valuable, and waiting to be found. It all began in 2009, a year that marked a century since Abraham Lincoln first appeared on the U.S. penny in 1909. To honor the 200th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the U.S. Mint released a series of 4 special reverse designs, each showing a different chapter of his life. Millions of these coins were struck, but somewhere, something went wrong. Amid the sea of shiny new pennies, a few rare and mysterious no-mint mark versions appeared. And one of them wasn't like the rest. Collectors first noticed something strange. The color was slightly off, richer, more reflective, almost proof-like. The details on Lincoln's face looked sharper, deeper, as if the coin had been struck with extra pressure. But when they flipped it over, they saw no mint mark. It didn't come from Denver. It didn't come from San Francisco. It was a no mint mark version from Philadelphia. But that wasn't the whole story. What followed next stunned even veteran numismatists. The coin had errors so subtle that most people would never notice them. Under magnification, experts saw doubled edges, tiny misalignments in Lincoln's jacket, and faint doubling on the word Liberty. Some showed variations in the memorial designs from the 4 special editions, a combination that shouldn't even exist. These mistakes were never meant to leave the mint. But a handful did, and when word spread that one had sold for nearly $2 million, collectors lost their minds. Dealers scrambled to check their rolls. People began emptying jars, boxes, and even vending machines, all searching for the 2009 no-mint mark Lincoln penny that could change their lives forever. It's not just a missing mint mark. It's the story, the timing, and the impossible combination of details. In 2009, the U.S. Mint produced billions of pennies, but due to the special bicentennial series, a small batch was struck using prototype dies meant for testing, not circulation. These test strikes, lacking the mint mark and showing distinctive imperfections, were accidentally released into the wild. Only a few were ever confirmed to exist. One coin surfaced in Illinois, Lincoln's home state. Another was found in a cash register drawer in Pennsylvania. Each discovery came with disbelief. How could an ordinary penny from 2009 be worth millions? But when grading services like PCGS and NGC authenticated them, their value skyrocketed. Collectors knew they weren't just holding a coin, they were holding a piece of American history, an era born from one of the most celebrated years in U.S. coinage. But that's not all. Some of these rare 2009 pennies display a dramatic double die on the reverse, particularly in the Presidency design, the one showing the unfinished Capitol building. The doubling makes the tiny architectural lines blur and thicken, and it's this microscopic flaw that has collectors calling it the ghost penny. It's almost invisible to the naked eye, but under the right light, it shines like a secret beacon. And then there's the composition twist. During 2009, most pennies were made of zinc with a thin copper coating. But a few of these no-mint mark coins were struck using the old bronze planchets left over from earlier years, a metal mix that was never supposed to be used again. These are the ultra-rare transitional errors, and that's where the million-dollar magic begins. Imagine finding one of these coins in your pocket. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Same size, same color, same face of Lincoln staring back at you. But that tiny missing mint mark, that slightly different tone, that hidden doubling in the lettering, that's what separates a regular penny from a fortune. One lucky collector realized this too late. He had unknowingly spent his 2009 era penny at a gas station. When he found out what he'd lost, he said it felt like watching a lottery ticket blow away in the wind. But what happened next stunned the coin world again. Another collector came forward with a near-perfect example, graded MS68 red, showing the flawless strike and missing mint mark. That single coin sold at auction for over $1.9 million. And that sale reignited the frenzy. Overnight, YouTube channels, online forums, and coin clubs across America were buzzing. Experts say only a handful of these 2009 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies exist, and most are still undiscovered. They could be sitting in your drawer, your old coin jar, or a forgotten roll of pennies from the bank. The key is knowing exactly what to look for, 2009. Then, make sure there's no mint mark under the date, nothing below Lincoln's shoulder. Next, examine the reverse side. Look for one of the 4 bicentennial designs, the log cabin, the young Lincoln reading, the Lincoln in Illinois, or the unfinished Capitol building. If yours has no mint mark and appears to have sharper details, odd doubling, or a slightly different tone of copper, set it aside immediately. Hold it under a magnifying glass. Look for doubled letters, especially on Liberty and In God We Trust. Compare the texture. Rare bronze versions feel slightly heavier and sound more solid when dropped on a wooden surface. These small clues could mean the difference between a common coin and one worth nearly $2 million. Collectors were shocked when they realized how easily this coin could blend in. Dealers rushed to secure every 2009 penny they could find, inspecting thousands for even a hint of the missing mint mark or a doubled die. Some called it the modern gold rush of pennies. New varieties of the 2009 no mint mark penny are still being discovered. Each time one surfaces, its unique flaws rewrite the story: new die cracks, misplaced designs, or unusual coloration. Each one adds another layer of mystery to what has become one of the most fascinating modern coin discoveries in U.S. history. So the next time you grab a handful of change, don't overlook those shiny 2009 pennies. Take a closer look. You could be holding one of the rarest errors ever released by the U.S. Mint, a coin so elusive and so valuable that even seasoned collectors are still hunting for it today. This isn't just about money, it's about history, luck, and the thrill of discovery. Because sometimes, the greatest treasures aren't locked in museums or safes. They're hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone like you to notice. The 2009 no mint mark Lincoln penny is more than a coin. It's a symbol of how a simple piece of copper can carry a story worth millions. And if you're lucky, that story could be yours.